the world didn't realize it was watching a turning point. It began not in a war room or a stock exchange, but during Game 1 of the World Series, when an ad aired that would ignite an economic earthquake. A familiar voice spoke. Ronald Reagan, calm and resolute. High tariffs lead to trade wars and to collapse. Except the voice wasn't real. It had been edited, altered, a deepfake of history broadcast by Canada's Ontario government to criticize America's trade policy. Within 48 hours, President Donald Trump struck back, raising tariffs, ending negotiations, and triggering a chain reaction that would ripple from Toronto to Beijing to New Delhi. The world was about to learn that in 2025, the most powerful weapon wasn't a missile, it was a tariff. October 26, Washington, D.C. President Trump, furious over the fraudulent Reagan ad, announced a 10% tariff hike on Canadian goods, accusing Ontario Premier Doug Ford of deception and interference. They were caught red-handed, Trump declared on Truth Social. Because of their hostile act, I'm increasing tariffs on Canada by 10%. The ad, a $75 million taxpayer-funded production, had aired twice during the World Series, using Reagan's likeness to condemn protectionism. The Reagan Foundation itself denounced it as a misrepresentation of history. Ford claimed the ad was meant to start a conversation, but Trump called it an act of propaganda. As he boarded Air Force One for his Asia tour, he told reporters, "I can play dirtier than they can." By morning, negotiations with Canada were terminated. Tariffs, Trump's signature weapon, were back on the table. In Toronto, panic mixed with defiance. Ford promised to pull the ad, but only after Game 2. The damage, however, was already done. Canada's export-heavy economy trembled. Automakers in Ontario warned of job losses. Agricultural exporters braced for retaliation. The loonie slid. Across the border, Trump's supporters celebrated the move as another America First victory. But abroad, analysts saw something else. An ally punished to send a message. That message was soon received in Beijing, because while one hand slapped Canada, the other extended toward China. Just days later, at the APEC summit in Busan, South Korea, Trump and President Xi Jinping emerged from talks with an unexpected announcement: a one-year trade truce. The U.S. would cut tariffs on certain Chinese goods, particularly those tied to fentanyl-related chemicals. China, in turn, would pause its export controls on rare earth minerals and magnets, materials essential for everything from smartphones to fighter jets. It was a stunning reversal. Canada, America's neighbor and ally, was sanctioned. China, its greatest rival, was rewarded. The Busan Agreement included a halving of fentanyl-related tariffs, dropping from 20 to 10%, a pause on U.S. export bans targeting Chinese tech firms, China's promise to buy 12 million tons of American soybeans before year's end, and 25 million tons annually thereafter. Beijing's suspension of tariffs on U.S. farm goods like wheat, cotton, pork, and beef. Markets reacted in whiplash. Wall Street rallied on hopes of stabilization. Commodities surged. Yet behind the numbers, the strategy was clear. Trump had turned trade into a chessboard of loyalty. Those who defied him paid in tariffs. Those who complied were rewarded with access. But while the world's two largest economies found a truce, others were caught in the crossfire. India, America's fastest-growing trading partner, became the unexpected casualty. According to the Global Trade Research Initiative, GTRI, India's exports to the U.S. collapsed 37.5% between May and September 2025, one of the sharpest short-term declines in recent memory. Trump's new tariff regime had targeted Indian goods starting April 2nd, beginning at 10%, climbing to 25% in August, and reaching a punishing 50% by late summer. Entire industries buckled. Smartphones exports fell 58%, from $2.29 billion in May to $884 million in September. Pharmaceuticals down 15%, cutting deep into India's generic sector. Gems and jewelry crashed nearly 60%, crippling factories in Surat and Mumbai. Solar panels plunged 61%, handing market share to Vietnam and Thailand. The reason? India faced steeper tariffs than its Asian rivals, 50% versus 30% for China and 20% for Vietnam. Textiles, chemicals, and seafood followed the same grim path. Factories trimmed shifts. Exporters begged for government aid. In New Delhi, officials rushed to stabilize the rupee and announced relief for affected industries. But analysts warned, without structural change, India risked losing its U.S. market share permanently. GTRI's report was blunt. Tariffs have not only squeezed India's margins, but exposed deep vulnerabilities across its export base. The result was a world unrecognizable from the trade order of a decade ago. In North America, U.S.-Canada relations froze to their lowest point in years. Washington threatened to review the USMCA agreement. Ottawa looked toward Europe and the BRICS nations for new buyers. In Asia, the Trump-Xi truce blurred old battle lines. China's temporary goodwill eased global supply chains, but many saw it as a strategic lull, not true peace. And in India, policymakers faced a brutal question. Had America first turned into Asia last? Global institutions scrambled to respond. The WTO debated whether Trump's sweeping tariffs violated trade law. The IMF warned of fragmented globalization, a world split between tariff blocs. Meanwhile, in Shanghai, BRICS leaders discussed expanding settlement in local currencies, a quiet step away from the U.S. dollar's dominance. It was economic realignment in slow motion. Ships idled in Los Angeles harbor, while new cargo routes from Shanghai to São Paulo thrived. Western alliances bent under the weight of self-interest. As one diplomat in Geneva put it, America is not withdrawing, it's redrawing the map to suit itself. By late 2025, the numbers told one story, but the power told another. Trump's tariffs on Canada showed that even allies could be punished. His deal with Xi proved that adversaries could be embraced if they offered leverage. And India's export collapse revealed the human cost of this new economic warfare. Factories slowed, workers lost jobs, markets shifted. But amid the turmoil, a pattern emerged. The global economy was no longer built on cooperation, but coercion. For decades, America wrote the rules of trade. Now, it was rewriting them, alone. America wasn't pushed out of global leadership, it was quietly replaced, one tariff at a time. Is this how superpowers hold on to power? By breaking the very system they built? Tell us what you think in the comments. Share this video if you believe the next world order is already forming before our eyes. And subscribe for more global analysis. Because the story of 2025 isn't just about tariffs. It's about who gets to decide the price of power.